Hello, witches! It is Wednesday. Grab a goat, grab a wand, grab something to drink, and let's talk about movies. Witches talking about movies. Yes, we are the Witches Movie Coven. We've been doing this for decades now. It feels like quite some time. Hopefully, you've joined us. Hopefully, you'll join us again. Let us introduce ourselves. I am one of your hosts. I am Patty Negri. You might know me from my regular podcast, The Witching Hour. You might know me from my books like Old World Magic for the Modern World and my newest book, Dollcraft. You might know me from Ghost Adventures or Portals to Hell or YouTube or Bathroom Walls Across America. But we're glad you're here because this is one of my favorite places to be. Let me pass this to my cohorts and co-sponsors and co-hosts. Let's start with Richard Leal today.
That would be me. I am Richard Leal. Richard Leal is one name. As it says right down there, Richard Leal is one name. If I were just Richard, I'd be
in a meat grinder.
That's true.
Good line, Courtney.
Ooh, I'm on it today.
You are, and I liked it. So I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I'm a psychic medium. I used to be a psychic. Apparently, I've told that joke one too many times.
Going on.
Yeah.
That was not mine. Was not going
mine.
On. So it's there. That being said, make certain you hit the likes, the subscribes, the comments. We need the comments because it helps us to continue to give great shows for people like you. Also, if you'd like to join the Coven, you can go right over here to that link and you can sleep with me. You might at one point be able to get into Patty's panties. You can become a bro witch. You can get some quotes. You can get some books by Heather Green and by Jason Menke, 10 of them. You can get all of these things over there at the Coven, right over there at MrControl.com.
Thank you very much. And now moving on to our golden hair locks, Jason.
I am Jason Menke, author of those 10 books. Here's one of them. The Witch's Wheel of the Year. Yeah, that's all I do is I sit and I write and then I talk about movies on Wednesdays. That is my life.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And now the beautiful and ruby-lipped Courtney Buckley.
That's me, Courtney Buckley, ghost bait on Scared and Alone. And I came prepared tonight, guys, with my mocktail, which is I don't want to oversell myself here as the best bartender of all time. It is watermelon Red Bull straight from the can over ice because I know what I'm doing. But to celebrate my 10-year soberversary. So happy soberversary with me. It's been a decade. It's been a long decade. And some days I think maybe that's been enough time, but not today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And last and never least, the beautiful Heather Green.
Hi, I am Heather Green, and I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which is right here. It is a critical history of witches in American television and cinema. And I am also a journalist covering all things occult in the media, as well as an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, working with wonderful authors that write about all the things that we talk about, including one that's here, Patty Negri, and we did Dollcraft together. What a treat! Thank you, Patty, for doing that book, and many other authors that I work with. So, and on Wednesdays I do talk about movies.
Yes, thank you very much. So that is us, and you guys are equally apart. But we also want to welcome our beautiful Tabitha, who is also a Coven member, and she's kind of helping us and guiding us through our chat room. But we want you guys in our chat room as well. Talk, hex, curse, tell us what to do, tell us what not to do, because we're live right now. We are live. So this week's movie, in honor of 420. Week 420, Hansel and Gretel Get Baked. We have gone back for the second week in a row to 2013. Yes, indeed. 13 years ago, Hansel and Gretel Get Baked. Hopefully you guys all watched it this week, but just in case you didn't, Richard Leal, do you have an unbiased synopsis of this?
This is certainly, I have something for certain. Okay, so we all know the story of Hansel and Gretel. This is not that story. So apparently, Hansel and Gretel are brother and sister, and are also stoners who live in 2013 Pasadena, California. And also, the boyfriend of Gretel is stoner and has heard of this new strain of Mary Jane, and it is called the Black Forest. And of course, you have to go to this certain old house in Pasadena, which I know very well. You have to go to an old house in Pasadena where there's a witch, and she's a little old lady. And of course, she offers you tea and she offers you snacks, and the boyfriend goes and doesn't turn up anywhere else. So he's down in the cellar, getting eaten by the witch. He doesn't want to watch, and so she plucks his eye out. Nonetheless, that sends Gretel into a frenzy, and she tries to find her boyfriend. Her brother Hansel seems to think that it's ludicrous. So she and a friend formulate a plan to break into the house, which is supposed to have an old woman, but now she's feeling much more refreshed. Then they break in. They find out that there are zombies. Oh, I forgot. There's a rival drug gang who also try to break in and are now dead because of zombies. I don't remember where that was. Honestly, I don't. But nonetheless, as it turns out, Hansel and Gretel both survive the witch's house because neither of them have partaken of the witch's treats. Then, of course, in the end, the police show up. The witch is dead. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And then, of course, she's not dead because a black cat jumps into a police car, and he's going to take the cat home, and she is actually the witch. That's it. That's it. That's the entire film.
Can I jump in for a second, because I just had a shocking revelation when producer Rob put the movie poster on the screen. I don't know why it took me this many times to see it, but by the producers of Twilight. Is that what I saw?
Yes, that's true. I'm sure Heather will talk about it in 5 things, or she's not going to talk about it.
Oh, this is going to be a good one. Okay.
I have to reevaluate my whole life now. Okay, go ahead.
Courtney is speechless. And thank you for that very clear synopsis of the plot line of Hansel and Gretel Get Baked. There might be a little bit more information, though. Heather Green.
There really isn't that much. There really isn't that much to talk about. So this came out in 2013. It is what it is. And the director is Dwayne Journey, who this is his only, as far as I can tell, feature film direction. He did a lot of other things in film outside of this, but this is his first, as far as I can tell, and his last feature film directing. The writer, David Tillman, who's an actor. Also, this is one of his few screenplays. I don't know if he did another, but at least this is the only one that I can tell that was produced and made into a film in terms of that. He is actually in the film. He plays Norm, the one who gets eaten by the black cat at the very end. That is the screenplay. That is who wrote this and who went ahead and wrote the screenplay and who conceived of the story. The budget was $4,500,000. I cannot find reports on how much it made, but it was released to limited theaters and then immediately within the same month to on demand. So this was not a breakout success. It was not nominated for an Academy Award. It did not win an Academy Award. And yes, it was produced by the Twilight folks, but I did not dive into that. I moved on to some other things. So number 2, the cast. Let's look at them for a second. They flashed up a second ago. We have Molly Quinn, who plays Gretel. She was a voice in the Winx animated series. If you know anything about that, she also was Agnes in 2021, and she was in We Are the Millers. If you've seen We Are the Millers, those are some of the things that you might have seen her in. Hansel's played the brother, Michael Walsh. He was in Star Trek Insurrection, Boy Meets Girl, and he was in the Twilight series. Oh, there we go. There's the heart. Oh, there we go. I do love the Twilight series too.
I'm so excited to do it for my birthday this year.
Okay, well, Witch Agnes. Agnes is a common name for witches in film. We've seen the name Agnes before. That's another conversation, played by Lara Flynn Boyle, who you may have remember from Twin Peaks. She was also in Men in Black, Wayne's World. She's actually been in a bunch of things. You may know her from other things as well. Those are some you've seen her face in. Ashton, the boyfriend. Andrew James Allen. I didn't look him up. Meter Man. Here's the big one. Did anyone notice or recognize the Meter Man from the very beginning of the show? The 3 seconds at the very beginning.
Is that Carrie Elwes?
Harry Elwes. He is. You do not, if you have to look very closely. I was trying to find out why he actually did that part, and they said probably for fun. I couldn't find it. Maybe he was connected to somebody. I couldn't find it. I didn't have enough time to dig deep. But clearly you don't recognize him at all. But that is him. And Carrie Elwes, if you don't know, he is Princess Bride. For me, that is Carrie Elwes. He's Princess Bride. So that's all we need to know about. And another character, a face you might recognize in here, amongst others, may be Lachlan Monroe. He was the police officer. Not the one he was eating. The police officer was shot at some point, the male police officer. He was in The Night at Roxbury and Scary Movie. He's a recognizable face. Like, I saw him, I'm like, I've seen him before. So that is him. So let's move on to number 3. Hansel and Gretel, the original story this was based on, was created, they believe, from around the 14th century. They believe that's when the story formulated, sometime during the time where the world was rough for kids, for parents, the Black Plague. And so these stories in Germany formulated oral stories of children being eaten, children being suffering in the woods, etc., Black Forest, all of that stuff. It was eventually made popular and written down by the Grimm brothers. It's originally from Germany, as far as I know. It very much has the Baba Yaga witch in it, which leads me to number 4, which is Hansel and Gretel is one of the most top 5 produced or adapted witch stories, witch literary tales in Hollywood. So you have things like Macbeth, The Wizard of Oz, Macbeth, and Hansel and Gretel's right up there. Over any other fairy tale, you are going to see it time and time and time again through Hollywood history, both television and film. And so it's really interesting. And I could go into detail, but some of the very first Hansel and Gretel adaptation in Hollywood is 1909, Hansel and Gretel. And you go through periods of time in the silent era, and then you go through periods of time in the 20s, and then the 50s, and then this time. And mostly you see it emerge when we have a change in technology. And it's a really interesting thread. I won't go into details here, but when Hollywood has a new technology, they tend to replicate stories that we know. Hansel and Gretel is one of them. Hansel and Gretel is the classic witch tale. It has the classic witch in it. It has the Baba Yaga who eats kids story. So you have it when Hollywood starts, you have it when animation starts, you have it when television starts. But this movie particularly was created when witch films, we had, first of all, technology-wise, this is when streaming really hit strong. So we have a technology change. And you also have, during the early 2010s, you have both an uptick in interest in witch films, but specifically in witch films that are centered around tales and history. You have we have Salem stories, we have fairy tales, we have fractured fairy tales, we have dark fantasy, all happening right in that early period. Once Upon a Time, Maleficent, I always bring that one up as an example. Salem, this show. We have tons and tons of stories that are retelling our stories from different perspectives, from darker perspectives. This is one of them. And it is not the only Hansel and Gretel story of the time. 2013, we have Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. I think we've done that film. I think we've done that one. And then, of course, 2015, Hansel versus Gretel. There's another one for us. And then we have Gretel and Hansel later on in 2000. I think we did that one. That's like 2023. That's more recent. So you have a ton of Hansel and Gretel stuff happening in the early 2010s. So it's pretty cool and it's interesting. And this is a different take. I love the double entendre of the actual title of Hansel and Gretel Get Baked, talking about baking and then getting baked, kind of cool thing. So the last thing
the witch and baking the witch.
Yeah, they're baking the witch. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a double entendre right there. There's all kinds of baking going on. I feel like we should break out into like a song from Waitress here. So anyway, the witch, finally, you have the witch to find herbs, bottles, black cats, of course, all the things that you normally would see, of course. And then you have the nature in the forest made up here of marijuana. But there's a couple easy things. 140 Wicca Lane is where she lived. I don't know if anybody caught that. 140 Wicca Lane. And she also, which is stereotypical of a characterization of witches, and is specifically, again, allegorically a female's power, is the desperate need to stay young. And that we can talk about thematically. We are not going to get into that. That's part of my book. I talk about that. But here we have it again, the sucking of life juices to keep you young and beautiful. So this is another version of the same thing we see in a lot of our movies. So those are some of the things to think about when you're watching this movie. And then we can talk about whether witches use cannabis in their spells.
Before we do that, can we go back to the cast again?
Yeah.
Because I actually want to talk about the cast. There is all of the names that you mentioned. Yes. We know the names, Carrie Elwes, all of these names we know. But I did not know that Doug Haley, right there in the middle, was teenager number 2. Doug is a friend of mine from Los Angeles, and I was not paying close enough attention to see that he was the teenager. And it's no wonder that in all the many years that I have known Doug, he has not once mentioned that movie to me. Not once.
Yeah.
I feel like I would immediately mention that movie.
Right.
At the top of my IMDb.
I mean, mind you, I was on that show. What was it? The Legs Benedict one. I can't remember which one that one was. That was bad. That was like, this film is bad. I think the film I was in was much worse. I don't normally tell people like something I just did.
Everyone knows.
Club Lingerie. You can find me as Legs Benedict, a transvestite serial killer. I mean, I'm a killer who is also transvestite.
Literally couldn't have written something better. I will be inhaling that later.
It's awful and fabulous. Also, Andy Dick is in it. And speaking of, well, I'm not Richard.
Speaking of being in a meat grinder.
Being in a meat grinder. Yes. So anyway, I just had to say about Doug.
Thank you. Okay, this movie, it's comedy, it's horror, it's gross. I wanted to like it. I mean, the idea of a stoner, modern cannibal witch running a drug front could have been amazing. And I like stoner films, but for me, nothing landed. Absolutely nothing landed. The comedy was not funny enough. The horror wasn't horror enough. The violence was just gross. My neck is sore from being tilted the entire time. Me and my dog were both going, tilt. tilt. And I wanted to like, oh, the evil dog, oh, the cannabis moving. But I've never seen, I mean, we've seen some really, really bad films. This is one that kept so unlanded in every point for me, from the acting, from the directing, from the cutting, and it could have been brilliant, in my humble opinion. What do you guys think?
Stoner movies are funny sometimes, and I've like enjoyed Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, Dude, Where's My Car? They're a good escape. This is a terrible stoner movie because everything Patty said is true. It's not funny, and it's not scary enough to be a horror movie, and it just doesn't know what it is. Laura Flynn Boyle is a pretty famous actress, I think, and she's in this movie. I don't know how that happened, and yet it's completely directionless and rudderless. I prefer Velocipaster or The Killing Tree. Those are terrible movies too, but at least they wink at you and have fun. There's nothing fun about this movie.
Fun.
Well, I beg to differ. There was one thing fun about this movie. I've mentioned it several times already. I think that visually we love a boobs and butts moment. And never once did I think on the Witches movie Coven that we would get a penis in a meat grinder situation. And there it was, full on in my face. And for like 1 second, up until that point, I was like, wow, the writing is terrible. The acting is horrific. Like I've never, obviously, like they're not actually stoned, but they're like taking the stereotype of being stoned and then they're high on something else and then trying to be the stereotype of being stoned. Like it's like the word, it does not land. It's terrible. Marijuana is their entire personality for absolutely no reason at all. So for a hot second, I was really upset. And then there was the Agnes one-liners in the beginning. And I was like, wow, this feels like a lot until the meat grinder. And then I was like, this is happening. It's happening. It's so exciting. And it's happening right there for me to see. And then I was invested. And then I was like, yes, I too would be a drug dealer if I grew my own pot from putting penises in meat grinders. This feels very me coded. So I don't know. Was it good? No, absolutely not. Was I connected to the film? Yes, I was. Did it grab me by the
meat grinder balls?
Correct? Yeah. Absolutely. For that reason alone. I was immediately, just like with the Witch Mafia, I needed to know nothing else. I just needed to know that, and I was invested. So, and also I will say that I was not expecting the level of gore that I got, and I love gore. So I did enjoy that. Was it scary? No. Was it funny? Not even a little. I did not think, especially for a stoner movie, and I watched it completely sober, as you know, it's my soberversary. Maybe I'm a little California sober. I do indulge in edibles every once in a while to help me sleep, and I can get a little silly. When I watch Your Highness, I'm not crying because I'm laughing so hard because of the stupid things that they say in that movie. This movie, I would have been scared. In not a horror movie way, in a what universe am I in? This is a bad time kind of a way. But I think that the meat grinder saved it for me. So,
note to self: be extra nice to Courtney
Always.
because she seems to have a penis meat grinder fetish.
Oh.
End note.
And are you
Cool.
I brought my themed wand again because it just fit again. So
They may take you away one day, Courtney, but it'll.
But and then to find out, imagine my surprise to find out that it's produced by the Like I knew the Twilight Kid was in it. I got excited about that for like a second until he was terrible. But then to find out that it was the same, it was by a Twilight producer. Are you kidding me? What is this? My birthday? Are you kidding me? And now I'm on board again. So I don't
Notice
care.
how that producer did not have their name?
I don't need it.
It-
I don't.
From the producer of Twilight,
Mhm.
it's that kind of like,
But don't tell your
Well,
name, right?
I am the fan of the movies that people don't love, and so I understand that, and I can support that. It's fine.
Wait, can
But
I just? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to finish off by saying whoever made the creative choice to show the meat grinder scene in all its glory like that, that's who I'm giving wands up to today.
I'm going to jump in here for a second. Is that I will watch any movie, and I, after time have enjoyed some of the non-Academy Award winning films that Courtney has introduced us to, including Velocipaster and the shark, Ouija Shark, and The Killing Tree. Those are the three that come to mind. Specifically, those are so much, they're so ludicrously bad, obviously not made with any intent of being serious, that I will talk about them for days. I have mentioned those three specific films to people more than a lot of the films that we watch, because they're so poignantly bad, but actually they knew it.
Yes.
And especially Velocipaster, which I was very impressed with their self-awareness in that film. It was obvious, like,
Yes.
we can't afford it, so we're just going to go put a big thing here, and say we can't afford this, so we're not doing this. So, those are so ludicrously bad that it's just, they own that, This one was not that. This one thought it was a horror movie, thought it was a stoner movie, but never really reached either point. So when I watched it originally for my book, I was watching, I'm like, another Hansel and Gretel, gotta watch it. And I was just like, I didn't, all I could remember is that the witch, and it's only been a few years, was the witch was using marijuana for her magic. That's all I remembered, and I didn't remember the details of all the stuff. And really, it's not, I thought there were some interesting things they did to try to wrap around the original story. Like, they mentioned, hey, we're going out to hang out with the Stiltskins. We'll be back later. Watch your sister. The trail through the forest is now the marijuana thing. And, some of the stretches they tried, and it could have worked. The cage, the oven, but it didn't want to be a horror movie, and it didn't want to be a stoner movie. It just landed flat. So
well,
thank
you all so much for joining us. That was the end of the show. That was
Well, who should have directed it is Reese, who made the Pooniverse. Because with the Killing Tree is not part of it, but he also made the Killing Tree and Bambi the Reckoning and the Peter Pan one, which was really good, and the Winnie the Pooh horror movies. He should have been in charge of this movie, and then whoever made the choices about the gore should have helped him, and then maybe it would have been something. But I agree. No, but you hit the nail on the head, and I've argued this every single time we've watched one of these movies, that genre of stupid horror, like The Killing Tree and Velocipaster, they're like that on purpose. Like, and that's the whole point, is that they're trying, like, that's the humor, is that they're being that stupid on purpose. This movie was like, we're gonna do a thing, and then they didn't, and that's not funny.
Well, and if you don't have the budget, if you don't have the budget to make, oh my goodness, wait a minute, everyone stop right now.
I was in that show. I was in that one. Is that
you right there?
That was me. Like, I don't know, like, well, naked. That was me naked.
Is that you?
That is not me. That was not me. But I wish there were pictures of me from that. Maybe I could send them to producer Rob. I think, no, you know what? You can find them. They're forever in my role. They're forever back, so I would never find them. But if you can Google, you can find some pictures of me and in that movie
As Richie, if we search Richie.
I was Richie. Yeah, that was what I was new to Los Angeles, and I wasn't Richard Lale then. I was just Richie, and I didn't want to be Richard, and I didn't want, because I hate Richard, and I didn't. Anyway, long story short, I was in that movie, long time ago.
Well, after that, I was saying before we got distracted by that fabulous little interruption, and oh my goodness, here we go. We've seen that before.
That was me being arrested after my wig.
Never falls flat. I love it.
Yep.
Okay. So for filmmakers, out there, if you don't have the budget to make a movie that can live up to a certain degree or a certain quality, own what you have and make the story what it is. And so if you need to bend, or if you need to make a comedic, don't try to make a film that you cannot make, because it will always fall flat. And I don't know that this one didn't. I mean, this one had a decent budget. They could have scaled back. There was a lot of actors that didn't need to be in the film. They could have done a fun stoner movie. I mean, how funny would that have been?
I would have enjoyed it more if they actually got stoned with rocks.
Well, that's a different movie then.
I mean, this was competently made. You know, there aren't like crazy shots. It's just a bad movie, right? It looks like a movie. It's clear that people who work on movies probably worked on this film to some extent. There was more than 2 locations. One of my favorite things about Ouija Shark is they just keep running through the same park over and over, right? I mean, you saw a couple of different spots. Some of the house was really well done. Like the room with all the potions and the herbs and stuff actually looked pretty cool. It was just crappy. The script was crappy and didn't know what it wanted to be.
Yep. I thought her makeup was terrible.
Horrible.
Her makeup was terrible.
The aging makeup was bad. The unaging makeup was bad. Mm-hmm. Whoever did the makeup, should have been fired on that one. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, like, maybe I should have been high to watch it. Would it have been better? I don't think it would have been. I think it would have been worse. I would have been frightened watching it stoned. Yeah.
I don't think, and for me, I think it was all the script. Like, I could have let go of, because the gore was good enough. And like Jason said, there was more than, well, I mean, we all know that I love a singular location pretending to be Vietnam flashbacks movie, but like everything else, like the set was fine. Like the whatever, I could have let go of all of it if the dialogue wasn't the worst thing. My ears were bleeding, and it was just so uncomfortable to listen to them talk, and that ruined it. And I feel like I would have, honestly, if that was a little bit better, I would have been fine with this movie having an identity crisis. I could have found something to be on board with, because the concept is there. It's interesting. The gore was good. I'll say it again, I guess, but like it was like listening to nails on a chalkboard. It was just awful. And that was the part for me that I could not, as much as I love movies like this and as much as I expected to love this movie, that's the part that I could not get behind.
And what's really funny is it came out the same year as Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And that one did very well. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that movie, but it did really well. And, you know, it's funny that 2 Hansel and Gretel movies came out the same time. So this wasn't trying to ride the coattails of that movie. So it was just kind of riding the coattails of everybody wanting to do fairy tale movies or dark fairy tale movies. And someone came up with this idea. But I would have liked to see it as a comedy stoner movie rather than a horror movie. I think that would have been fun and different. If it had to choose.
Another thing about this film is it's set in California and it's 2012, 2013, and they're acting like marijuana is some sort of taboo, like the police.
Right.
I moved here about that time, and I remember I went to a parade for the San Francisco Giants, who had just won the World Series, and then they had a big reception. And I thought that I was at a Grateful Dead concert because of the haze of pot smoke that was over everything, and nobody hit it, nobody cared. That's California, and
California.
marijuana wasn't legal then like it is now, but it took about 2 seconds to get a prescription for it because that was all bogus, right? Like this whole idea that the cops cared, like, oh, you got busted for weed, like it's just so not true. Like maybe in 1985, but not in 2012, and it just takes you right out of the movie because it's completely not realistic.
Well, and let me just add to that is that since that time, I work for Llewellyn, as everybody knows, and we've had a number of books that we've published. The author is Carrie Connor, and she publishes books where she talks about using marijuana, obviously legally and responsibly. I add those disclaimers in for your magic and spiritual use. And so I'll hold some of these books up. We have Conjuring with Cannabis. We have, 420 Days and Weed Witchery right there, if anyone's interested. And then wait a minute, one more, hold on. Wake, Bake, and Meditate.
I love the title.
So take your spiritual practice to a higher level with cannabis. There you go. So, the use of them in metaphysical, spiritual, esoteric uses is a literal thing. But I'm guessing that Carrie probably did not have any kind of directions on how to wake up plants and have them to transport cameras across and to actually medicate people or turn young men into zombies or make them pass out so they can go and so you can go ahead and suck the life juices out to be young. I don't think these books have those instructions.
Besides, not only does cannabis not turn young men into zombies, that's Fox News's job. I mean,
yes,
But
that's not these books.
And for science, if one wanted to do all of those things to a man, what book would we read for that? I'm not asking for myself. I'm just curious in case other people are wondering how you proceed to be Agnes in this movie. Just
Asking for a friend.
Well, asking for a friend.
Dummy.
Jason, you have an answer for that?
Jason, write that book.
Book 11.
Let that be number 11. You're muted.
Good. You're gone.
I
can't hear you.
can't hear you.
Well, that's the marijuana talking. How to be an evil stoner witch or something? I don't know. What kind of book would you want me to write there?
Well, it's specifically, Courtney, you have to write the spell for how to fix a man that shows up at your door so you can get him tied up and then
Eat him.
All right. Well,
to stay young.
Heather, call up Llewellyn. Dear Llewellyn, I'm gonna write a book. It's gonna be about that, and see if there's any nibbles on that, because that's what I'm gonna write about.
So you can stay young. The whole goal is
Right.
to maintain your youth.
Obviously.
Well, how do we know you're not doing that already? Because you're so youthful looking. You could be 300 years old.
I actually am 374.
Wow.
You do live in
She has a meat grinder. She has a meat grinder.
I have a lot of instruments that do a lot of different things. This is one of them. So.
And we're speechless. Dead air.
well, I have a question for everybody. So, is there an adaptation that you prefer of Hansel and Gretel? Because it is a classic story. We've covered several versions ourselves. What is your favorite version of Hansel and Gretel beyond the Grimm fairy tale? Nobody?
Nobody.
Well, okay, fine. I'll tell you my favorite Hansel and Gretel. It's from 1991, and it's in the Addams Family. And, and the Adamses have been
Nobody's surprised.
Adamses are ousted out of their house, and they have to get regular jobs. And Morticia becomes a daycare teacher, and she reads Hansel and Gretel, and she says, "And just as the sweet old lady was about to push the children into the oven, she was pushed into the oven by those children. Now imagine, boys and girls, how that must feel like, being burned alive." And then, of course, all the kids are crying. And you know how the kids are crying is because they told them that their mommies and daddies did not want them. I'm not even kidding. In that 1991 film, the children crying is because they told them their parents were never coming for them and their parents didn't love them. I'm not kidding. That's it. That's my favorite. That's my favorite version. That's my favorite version ever.
There was a popular version. Let me see what year it was. I think it was 1951. No, 1954. It had puppets, and it was animated. And there was a Puppetoon version in 1951, and then there was another version. I can't remember the name of the witch puppet. She's very, very famous. She you would recognize her in a second if
Punch
you
and
saw
Judy?
her. Yes. What is it?
Punch and Judy.
Yes, it's similar to that, and she was appeared in several things, but she was in she was in one, and it's called The Story of Hansel and Gretel, and then there's Hansel and Gretel Opera Fantasy. Those were both in the 50s, and they're pretty cool to look at. That is, which one is that one? I don't know which one that one is because I can't see the witch. The witch will cue me into which one it is. But they have there were several done back in the 50s that were kind of fun to watch with the puppets and the claymation and all of that kind of thing. And I love the animated ones. Disney did one back in the 30s, Babes in the Woods, which is the witch at the end when they're trying to chase her out of the woods. She forms into a rock. Like they get her and she's like running and then she forms into this witch rock and it becomes Witch Rock. So there's some cool little retells of it.
Didn't Laurel and Hardy do one? I think so. I think that they did one, Laurel and Hardy.
I mean, there's been so many versions of this told. I'm just thinking of the ones that had the name in it, but there probably was. Everybody has done this story. It's embedded in a lot of movies. It shows up everywhere. Again, this is one of the archetypes. Hansel and Gretel has a witch archetype, has a narrative witch archetype. It's the old witch in the woods that nobody likes. It's the Baba Yaga. It's an essential archetype of the old woman who's scary in the woods, who's going to harm children. So you just boil the story down, and it's repeatable.
I have a question for you, Heather. Maybe you would know. So in the puppet ones, did the witch look like Lady Elaine Fairchild from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Because that puppet scared me.
One of them did. It is very much a Lady Elaine type puppet. That's the Opera Fantasy one. She has she's not dressed like a witch. She has like a black kind of fancy kind of like white thing. I'll have to find a picture of her if I can shoot it up to our producer, but she kind of has that look. But Lady Elaine was many years later.
Okay, moving on with Hansel. Do we have any quotes, Miss Courtney?
Or I mean, we have a couple. They're not great, but I did my best with what I had to work with. So when she has the boyfriend on the table and he's completely misreading the situation, like entirely, and she's talking about eating him, and he is thinking that it means something else, and he says, "What if I let you lick my junk, nothing else?" And then this is the part where I was like, I'm confused about what I'm watching. She said, "What if I want to eat your junk?" And I was like, this is a lot. And then he said he doesn't want to watch, and then she ate his eyeballs. So There
Like
was
you
a
do.
lot happening. It was sensory overload. And then he says, "Please let me go." And she said, "I wish I could, but I've still got the munchies for people." Like, rug on, sister. And then when Hansel and Gretel are walking out of the house, she says, "It would be nice if you could be a little more supportive." And he said, "You're adopted." What? Okay. And then in all capital letters, I wrote, "Did she just put his penis in a meat grinder?" So that's my own quote. That's quoting me while I was watching that movie. So those are my quotes.
Thank you
I-
very, very much.
While I was watching it, I did write down 2 quotes
Okay.
because I thought the movie is almost funny in these at this particular point. So the other girl who was not Gretel, she says at one point, "He took me to really fancy places like the Cheesecake Factory," which is funny. And then the witch says, "Never send a zombie to do a woman's job."
That was awesome.
Those were the only moments of enjoyment I had in the entire film.
Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory. Yeah, that was a good one. See, Stoner, Cheech and Chong. I too grew up in Cheech and Chong. I actually worked for them once. I delivered marijuana products to LA. It was early down in the line with Lady Willis-Hage. So yes, that's a Stoner.
I would like just to suggest as a suggestion for this week's t-shirt to be something having to do with the meat grinder. Be nice or I'll get my meat grinder, like
A witch's tool, the meat grinder.
a tool for your tool.
Sacred tool.
I have not had luck with Hansel and Gretel movies my entire life. And a lot of this stems back from junior high school years when I would play in soccer tournaments, and my parents would get 2 hotel rooms, a room for them and a room for the 4 boys. And my stepbrother would watch Showtime late into the night, which we were not supposed to be watching, clearly.
Scandalous.
And there's a terrible cartoon that was shown late at night on Showtime called Hansel and Gretel, and it's a pornographic version of Hansel and Gretel, and it's about 7 minutes long. If you want to see it, you can look up Hansel and Gretel, but I have been scarred for life by Hansel and Gretel.
So sorry, Jason.
I'm
Yes.
furiously Googling right now, but okay.
Speaking of, do we have a Mankey movie moment?
I mean, I probably should have wrote about that, but I did not. Probably for the best. I will start, though, because of the hair, sometimes because of the way I dress, people just assume that I'm a marijuana guy, that I'm a cannabis guy. People sometimes walk up to me and ask me, where to buy illicit substances, and this has been happening for a while, but I am not a marijuana guy at all. I tried it when I was in college a couple of times. I remember one night after visiting the bar, I met some really beautiful women who were looking to get high, and I took them back to the house that I shared with a ton of people, and most of my roommates were stoners, and I asked one of them if I could get some weed so I could impress these women, and he said, sure, and he goes, that will cost you money, and I gave him basically all the money that I had, and I thought to myself, this is just way too much effing money, and I'm never doing this again. And that's like the only time I've ever bought marijuana. Over the years, people would offer me pot in various forms, and it would usually just make me paranoid, or I would convince myself that I was dying because of it. I ate a couple of edible blueberries once with like marijuana chocolate, and 30 minutes later, I looked up marijuana overdose death, convinced that my time was very soon. You really can't die of a marijuana overdose. I am not a good person to get stoned with. I taught a witchcraft class a couple of years ago, and one of my students brought me some honey infused with a strain of marijuana that's supposed to make you sleepy. And that actually worked pretty well. and I sometimes would take a teaspoon or two before bed, but I didn't have any extra cool dreams, nor did taking that honey make me want to start kicking a hacky sack and listen to the Grateful Dead. I didn't get high, I just got sleepy. And I've also never been a smoker of anything. Inhaling burning plant material just makes me cough a lot. When I try to be cool and smoke pot with people, I just end up coughing and gasping for air. I sound like a cat coughing up a hairball. Do you know what doesn't make me cough? Whiskey. Also, water. Pretty much anything is preferable to me than putting smoke into my lungs. But I often wish that I was a stoner. It always looks like so much fun. People always hang out together, and sometimes they're in a circle and they pass a joint around and they laugh and they seem all chill and stuff. And then I get in the circle and they pass it around to me and I just start coughing 2 seconds later. And then I start looking over my shoulder because I'm sure that we're going to get busted by somebody because THC makes me paranoid. And then 30 minutes later, I think I'm going to die. It's very clear to everyone that I'm not a marijuana person after those moments. It's also clear to everyone there that I was never cool enough to work in a record store. Heather always tells us that horror movies are really warning tales against sex and drugs. And while I thought Hansel and Gretel Get Baked would just be a stoner comedy, this movie makes marijuana look completely unfun. The opening is kind of fine. People see music allegedly, and Stoner Dude is with a woman that's way out of his league, and they seem content and blissful for a few minutes until they get munchies. But then the moment the dude goes out to get more weed, he loses an eyeball, and the girl never gets stoned again. Mostly you just see people token up and then visiting Laura Flynn Boyle and then dying. And while I would still like to visit Laura Flynn Boyle, none of this seems like all that much fun. And that's how crappy this movie is. They made something that should probably be fun and turned it into something that's clearly not fun. It's almost like I wrote this movie based on my past marijuana experiences. But I would never write anything this crappy because I respect people and I respect their time. The makers of this movie didn't respect my time or yours, and it certainly didn't make me want to celebrate 420.
Oh, that is beautiful.
So
Okay.
what?
I actually have a thought.
Okay.
So maybe next year, instead of this awful movie, if things are still, Reefer Madness, both the 1938 and then the 2000 musical version of Reefer Madness. It has the devil in it and magic.
Yeah.
It's a billion times better than
Whatever this was.
The money I would pay to watch Jason live experience a marijuana overdose, it's the limit does not exist. Like I would pay so much
The curiosity is just absolutely like,
him eating a marijuana chocolate covered.
Well, I had 2 of them, Courtney. 2.
And like freaking out and Googling marijuana overdose. Just the imagery of that alone that's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. That's
it. That's the witch in the opera fantasy.
That's the one that I thought that I had remembered is the one that looked like Lady Elaine Fairchild.
There you go. There she is.
Thank
Oh my
you,
God,
Rob,
I'm-
for that and getting us out of the other tangent. It is
I'm laughing
appreciated.
so hard I'm crying at Jason's marijuana blueberry.
I think the follow-up to this is Cheech and Chong meet that witch. I think that would be a really funny movie. Like
would be a good movie.
let's make a funny version of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or Jay and Silent Bob.
I love Jay and Silent Bob.
All right. Before we go too far off, we got to vote. Wands up, wands down. And this means all of you in the chat room too. Wands up, wands down.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Courtney.
I'm voting up because I too have sometimes get the munchies that only eating a person could solve. So
Down,
and
down,
I too
down.
would
Down,
like to put
down
a
the witch's
penis
road.
in a meat grinder. So I
Okay.
identify with her.
There is no middle ground with us. We have down, 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 and up. All right, you guys in the chat room. Nobody's voting. Are you all afraid to vote? Wait, right, this movie is baked. She did wait one. Oh yeah, Robert's so far down. It is buried. He's buried his wand. Wand's down from Marty. Okay, down. Is anybody on Courtney's side? Wand's up. Okay, Colin. Only because I'm half baked myself right now.
Wow, Colin is the only one not going in the meat grinder. Imagine that.
Way down. Horrible movie. Okay, we got Courtney. We got Colin.
Tabitha, how did even a neutral is too good for this film?
Neutral Tabitha.
Need I remind everyone who's voting just the absolute width of this?
You are a torture queen, Courtney.
Yeah, I like what I like, Patty.
Past lives. Anyway, we've got there's very little middle ground on this. There's a lot of downs. We got double downs with Jason. Everything's turning phallic on me.
Jason,
I don't know why.
I
Courtney.
will send you a marijuana blueberry. Okay, so just watch it.
I actually have a bag of gummies at the house, and I ate half of one before watching this movie. And I did not look up that I was going to die, but I wondered if I was going to die, and it didn't have the effect that I wanted it to on this film.
Damn.
I keep trying and I keep failing. I shouldn't even try. That's the lesson. Don't try, kids. Don't try.
So what 2013 movie are we watching next week?
2016 movie called A Dark Song.
Oh.
So we're advancing 3 years.
Okay, 3 years. 2016, only 10 years ago. A Dark Song.
And we'll be celebrating the birthday of one of our regular guest hosts, Scarlett, or Sarah, as she's sometimes known.
Yeah. So everybody, let's watch it. And somewhere, A Dark Song.
Yeah.
Grab your goat. If you don't have a goat, remember, like Richard Lale said, we go to Mystery Control and you could have a goat. You could have a naked goat, or you could have a bling goat. But there's many goats to be had. Or you could have a lovely scarf goat, which we have outfits for our goats too. Anyway, we have a minute or two left. Does anybody have anything fun they have going on they want to tell us about? Courtney.
I can't stop laughing because who is the character in Willy Wonka that turns
Violet Beauregard.
Violet.
I now have that imagery stuck in my head of Jason freaking out because he thinks he's turning into
I do like blueberries a lot.
I swear this is just Red Bull. There's nothing else in here. But I can't stop laughing. It's just so funny. Oh my god. Sorry. Did everybody see the Practical Magic trailer?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Wand's up immediately. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go. They are so promoting it. It better be good. They're promoting it. This weekend, I'm going to be in Atlantic City, and then we got to go to Heather. I'm going to be at the Showboat Casino in Atlantic City for AlterCon and Great American Cryptid Expo. I'm going to be doing a seance. I'm going to be doing a mediumship gallery with a fellow medium, April Doucette. There's all sorts of like little exclusive things that you could do with Sam juices. So you check AlterCon, ALTERCON, or go to my website. Join me this week in Atlantic City. Next week in Vegas for vampires. So much to do. Heather, go.
I am leaving tomorrow for Portland to go to Spirit Northwest, a pagan event. I will be there representing Llewellyn, talking to authors and talking to people who want to publish a book or write a book about any esoteric and occult and pagan stuff. So
Did everybody leave?
I just got kicked out.
I got kicked out. I
I
got
thought
kicked
you were
out.
still alive.
Are we the only ones left living?
Everybody fell in the meat grinder. Jason's blueberry took over. What's happening?
I'm backstage. We all
Jason.
the witch got us. And Heather was in the middle of talking.
I know.
Oh,
Jason, your blueberry did not take you.
Yeah, like the whole thing just like went.
went dead
Connection has been lost.
in the
right?
middle of Heather talking, and she's the one who's still lost.
Mm-hmm.
Where's it left? Oh,
Someone
she
I
left her. Yeah, we.
Wasn't me.
Okay.
You guys hear me?
now,
Heather.
Was I the only one who just got dropped?
no,
all of us did.
but you're still visionless.
Richard Lil was back for a second and then he left again. This is dramatic.
This is dramatic. We've never had that.
This is what happens
You're back.
when everyone gets raptured live. But we get sent back.
And we
So,
lost Heather again. There's Heather again.
my goodness, they're still deciding on Heather.
Wow.
No, I just switched to my laptop camera, so which actually is better than the other one. I'm a new camera got delivered while we were talking to stop this funky green weirdness. But anyway, I'm back. So I was not the only one.
No,
who
we
got
all
dropped.
left.
Everyone.
Okay.
In the middle of you talking. In the middle of you talking.
Yeah.
So
I
you
know.
could finish talking.
I'm witchy like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was Jason's blueberry.
All right. Richard Lael has not made
I've
it back.
gotten blamed for a lot of things. I've gotten blamed for a lot of things in life, Courtney. This one isn't me.
So
Well, it's not you. It's your blueberry.
we
All
have
right. Well, I guess
Could be.
it's telling us it is time. I was hoping Richard Lael could come back, but he's not. So we have one more thing to do, and I guess let's do it in our stoner best. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.